Are you ever concerned that the size of your bladder is getting smaller?
No, I don't think so.
Because
I I've never worried about this. No, I've never thought about this. Is that a thing? Do bladders get smaller?
I don't think they get smaller, but I think that generally men, as they age, like pee more frequently. And I noticed when I was I was on a trip last week, which is why the show is late. By the way, hi. Also, by the way, sorry about that. I was traveling to Texas, which we can talk about
For
a little
the
bit.
Esports Awards.
Dude, okay, I sat at a table front row center right next to Nade Shot, okay? So, like, I'm big shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a little
Fuck
bit of
those
extra
people.
glow this week.
Dude, yeah, I know, right? It's like when they walk around, Twitter followers just fall off them, and you can like catch them, like you're going around handling for soup. I was at the Esports Awards. I was in Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, surrounding area, and I rented a car, and I was doing a lot of driving around with said car to go to different barbecue places. I actually might have focused on that a little bit more than the Esports Awards. Don't tell anybody at Liquid.
It was your own personal award show for American barbecue.
Yeah, I went to 5 different places over 5 different days, tried 5 different briskets, all of which were like ranked in the top 25 in the latest like Big Texas ranking. And you know what? It was pretty. I have some notes. I think that their pork ribs are like whatever, but like the brisket in some places really really good. But the point about the peeing is that because I was driving around so much and consuming like just a lot of like water and food, I feel like for the first time I'm like, oh, I don't think I can hold it as long as I used to. I feel like I need to pee at an increased frequency, which is concerning to me because I feel not that old yet.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a thing. But your bladder doesn't go smaller. I don't think that's what's happening.
That's how I'm justifying it.
Eventually you're gonna get, leaky dick. That's eventually what happens.
No, I don't want that. I want to be. What's that called? Incompetency. I want to be very very competent forever.
Not competent. Competent means you're good at something.
Incontinent.
Incontinent.
But I'm in a continent all the time.
I don't want to be competent.
I want to be very continent, but the competence is like in flux.
Yeah.
Dude, Texas is flat. That's what I
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's part of that Midwest area that of the U.S. that is very flat.
That's what I learned this week. I learned that Texas is flat, and I learned that it is very difficult to sit. So the award show, which was last Saturday, was 6 hours about that we were in the. Have you ever been to the esports arena in Texas?
No.
It's like sponsored by the city, basically. It's like in an old convention center. It's a pre-set up stage, and like it's like a convention center that has a permanent esports stage installation and like the right light set up all the time. So like it's really plug and play for a tournament organizer, which is cool. Like I mean, big fan that like there's a space that professional. It's just like turnkey. We went there. There was a whole red carpet thing. We were treated pretty well, and then the award show was like 5 or 6 hours, and the people in the audience really lost momentum and energy about 30 minutes in, because I think what you're supposed to do at an award show is like, oh, it's nominations, yeah, we're gonna clap for them. There is so much clapping that had to happen during the course of those hours that people just gave up on the clapping. And if anybody watched the stream, which you probably shouldn't have, I don't think there's really a reason to, you can see the excitement level of the audience because they have a big jib camera that's like pushing over everything. The excitement of the audience just dwindles as the night goes on, to the point by the end of the night, like no one's really clapping for stuff unless it's like big stuff. So, I was the only person out of like.
Well, hold up, I'm sorry. You said it's 6 hours?
Yeah, we were there for about 6 hours. The award show itself.
I just googled how long is the Oscars, and it says about 3 hours. What? Why is an esports show being twice as long as the fucking Oscars?
The awards, I think, were technically 4 hours of in person on stage, but we were in there for 2 hours to prelude the awards, and then we were in the same building for another 3 hours for an after party.
Oh my goodness!
But like from the time we sat down till like the end of the broadcast, it was about like 5-6 hours. Yeah.
Mamma mia!
So
it sounds like an awful way to spend my Sunday.
It was Saturday, and it was okay. It was okay. I'm not still as good as networking as I want to be. I feel like I was there to like, talk to people, but there weren't a lot of creative people there. There was a lot of sales. But dude, the energy.
You got to be good at networking, Joey. Very important in this industry. Reddit is really reminding us of that.
I was the only person in the arena. I think that there was like literally 5 people who were Dota fans there in the first place. Like, yeah. And I was the only person who clapped for Ame and PSG LGD when they were nominated for stuff. And then people looked at me. Like, it wasn't like I was like, yeah, woo, yeah, bad Ame. People looked at me like they were confused about what I was doing. And I'm like, you're at the Esports Awards. 1, you should clap out of courtesy. 2, like, what? Why am I getting judged? Why am I getting judged?
Look, that guy's from one of the weirdo esports.
Dude, you can tell what people were excited about in the arena. And the answer was everybody loves League of Legends.
Yeah.
So when they're like, and competitive team of the year, PSG LGD. And I'm like, yeah, woo, God, good, great. You should have won that TI. And everyone's like, crickets. And I'm like,
well, Riot won one of the awards, right?
They won a couple.
Or I'm sure they won so there was probably a number of Riot people there, right?
They shouldn't care though. Like, it's an award show. You clap for everybody.
Yeah. But I'm more so saying like the people that aren't Riot, probably all the more reason to be invested in Riot products. They're killing it lately. They're putting out so many different games. Arcane was amazing. At this point in time, unless you still believe in Artifact 2.0, Riot's the developer that you want to be on the side of if you're in esports.
Yeah, and Valorant, man. People, it's good, it's cool. But I felt there were other people there. I know Jacob was in the room because I was sitting a stone's throw away from him. He wasn't excited about Ame, probably because he didn't want Nade Shot to look at him weird because he was going to get judged.
Yeah, it would be a reminder that he's from one of the weirdo esports.
Yeah.
He's probably trying to bury that past. Oh, you were a pro player in what game? That doesn't matter. It was back in the days,
God. So Esports Awards happened. Don't have to talk about it because we didn't win anything. But I was prepared to give a speech if I had to win something. But I knew that I wasn't going to win anything. But I was prepared mildly.
Do people know if they're going to win? I feel like when I got nominated, people did know if they were going to win because people weren't going to attend unless they won. And I know I didn't win.
I think the answer... I think it depends. It depends because, okay, so think about it from the production standpoint of Esports Awards. If you want to have Nade Shot there, you got to tell him he's going to win something, right? Like, he's not getting out of bed for nothing. Similar with a lot of other people. Like, if you want the person there, you should probably let them know if they're big enough. But also, I think that if something is competitive, you get a lot of, like, similar, like, almost winners, potential winners who come around for the just-in-cases. I feel conflicted because the people who won like the esports creative and production teams of the year stuff were actually, it wasn't Liquid, it wasn't G2, it wasn't 100 Thieves, it was Dr. Disrespect's people. Are
they esports people? Or is that just generally streaming stuff?
I think that's the issue. It's like for me it's I don't want to be gatekeepy about what is and isn't quote esports. But I feel like that's the sentence I'm proposing right now because if it's like, man, like, they do awesome stuff for anybody who, is a Dr. Disrespect fan and on the stream. Like, they make a lot of cool stuff. Was he there? No.
Was Mr. Disrespect there?
Mr. Disrespect was not there.
Oh. Well, it's a real bummer for the Esports Awards.
That's it. Like, that's what they make. But, I mean, G2 did awesome stuff all year long. 100 Thieves filmed a video with Lil Nas X. I sent something to space and did Zero G. Like, there's a bunch of, I think, teams who are doing really cool stuff this year who are all pushing each other, and they got passed up for Dr. Disrespect's stream graphics. Which again, super cool, but like not. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I guess I do know how I feel about it, and the answer is grumpy.
Yeah. No. I think that is fair. I think that is fair because presumably I don't watch well, I have seen Dr. Disrespect, but I don't actively watch a stream or anything. It is like most of that stuff, isn't it just like graphics and cool green screen stuff?
Yeah.
Are they doing any like real world recording?
I don't think they're doing much, but I mean, like they have done promotion videos. I think that like his book promotion was cool. There's he does do like
a book.
Yeah, I think yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff that they do, like their thumbnails, their YouTube stuff. Like all of it's like really competent. It's a super tight brand with super creative people on it that do a phenomenal job. But I think that it's hard to compare versus like even if I take myself out of the stuff that like G2 made this year. So
yeah. You've got whole teams dedicated to making like lots of cool shit. It's understandable you'd be a little bit put out that somebody else besides what you consider your direct competitors, I would be grumpy if like, I know what it was. Casey got nominated for Esports Caster of the Year, and that was the only Dota person on that list. Like that was so absurd.
I think Shiva was nominated for Host of the Year. Is it Kyle's on the panel? He should be able to tell him that's stupid.
I meant like 2 years ago or something.
Oh.
They put Casey onto the caster, and of course I attached her to Dota 2, and obviously she's not a caster. So that was really weird. That was so absurd that I couldn't really get mad at it. It was just like, what the fuck? Like, that's weird.
I think that it goes to show like again.
Yeah, it goes to show like how they view Dota 2, I guess. But
continence
or incontinence. Maybe it's incontinence. Yeah, maybe they were incontinent and they had to run to the bathroom, and that's why they put Casey on the list. But yeah, like I could see like if that wasn't so absurd, I would be grumpy about it. I'd be like, what the hell? Like I don't. Don't put me on, but at least put like Owen on or somebody. Like back then, Toby was still casting. I'm not sure if LD was still casting at that point in time. That was probably after he retired. But yeah, it's like, lots of good people here. Like, why'd you choose somebody who's literally not a caster? So yeah, no, I think it's understandable that you'd be grumpy about that.
I would say the Texas trip was a success, though, mostly because of the barbecue. For anybody who's from the area, my favorite was Goldie's. So.
I think I ordered from Goldie's. I think I did one of those online ordering from restaurant things where they ship the stuff to you. I think that might have been the place that I ordered from because I know there was some highly rated barbecue place.
They won number one in the Texas Times Top 50, which happens every 3 years. They're the most recent number one winner. And normally I'm like, number one, how good can number one be? But they undisputably had the best brisket out of all the places that I went to. So,
and you hung out with Tsunami a lot while you were there, right?
Yeah, we stayed together for a hot minute in downtown Dallas, which was cool. Because he's also from Texas, which is nice. I did not mess with Texas.
That's good. You don't do that. You don't do that.
But yeah, that's all I got in front of there. I think that there's a lot of people who are like, man, did they go, what is it, 15 whole minutes and not talk about like, oh guys, the rosters are locked. And my thoughts,
don't worry, guys. We'll stop talking about Joey's personal life. It just keeps on coming up on this podcast. Like last podcast was like a full hour of Joey. It was like weird.
People were like, why the fuck is he talking? He's supposed to transition the words that Cap says into a different like what the fuck is he doing? Sharing.
Where's my Dota?
Fuck off. I still feel conflicted about doing what even could amount to a full podcast about roster moves because I know that there's so many other people who are just fucking really ramming the roster news hard and talking about it. And maybe they might even be announced more qualified than us. But I mean, what else is there really? I mean, we got there's news. How do we not?
There's a lot of drama stuff that we could talk about, but I think we could take probably a solid 15 minutes talk about some of the rosters that are more interesting. If you guys haven't seen it, there is a if you scroll down through the top of Reddit from this week, there is somebody who put out a graphic that has all of the regions, upper divisions, rosters and the changes that have been made. So basically it's this guy's out and these people are in. So for example, we can start with NA. Quincy Crew of course picked up Kezu, Milan, and Ponlo, which we already knew last week. I think I talked about that. I'm not like super invested. Like I just don't really believe in that roster compared to the previous Quincy Crew. But then again, the previous Quincy Crew never succeeded on the main stage. So, it's you can't really judge these things too harshly. I think the big news coming out of NA is, of course, that Archon is Evil Geniuses picked up Nightfall and JerAx. And this is probably the hottest story because JerAx has now come out of retirement and all of his OG members have seemingly retired or are taking a break. So he is the only two-time TI winning player currently playing in this season in the DPC. And I also think that him playing on EG, which it seems to be he's going to be playing 5 and maybe has a captaining role. I'm not entirely sure on that just yet. But if that is the case, then I think JerAx is actually putting himself up for the potential for him to enter into the conversation of greatest of all time for Dota players, right? Because right now, the conversation is Puppy or Kuro or Seb No-Tail as sort of like if you could just put them together.
They're a couple.
Weird monstrosity Frankenstein, Yeah, it's because they won back-to-back 2 TIs. Kuro and Puppy both won a TI, but their legacy is much longer than No-Tail and Seb, and their consistent performance year over year is what puts them in the conversation of GOATs. But if JerAx differentiates himself from all those 2-time TI winners and also puts himself as a captain, then all of a sudden you can be in that conversation of GOAT. And because I think, generally speaking, I think in Dota, GOATs kind of have to be. There are like GOAT players and GOAT, like the real GOATs, which are usually captains.
They're leaders. Like if they're not captains, they're like defined leaders, right? So
yeah, they're individually skilled players who can do a lot, but Dota is a very strategic game, and so therefore we always value captains, I think, a little bit higher than everybody else.
Do you think JerAx got bored of his normie job?
I don't know what his normie job was. He said he was going to do exciting things, and then he streamed for like a little bit. I know he had like a merch thing while he was on OG. I don't know if that ever coalesced into anything else after he retired, but I guess it's not terribly surprising that he got the itch to come back at some point in time. And I have no idea how this actually happened. I don't know if JerAx approached EG or if EG approached JerAx or how this sort of thing went down. But it is going to be, I think, an interesting time. And Evil Geniuses, if they flop super hard, it'll obviously kind of ruin JerAx. Because right now he's held up as like the reason OG won 2 TIs, right? Because obviously the following up roster of OG did not do so well. So a lot of people point to JerAx. They're like, oh, obviously he was the reason that OG won those 2 TIs in the first place. So he's got sort of this golden status right now that could get torn away if EG doesn't do well.
I truly cannot even fathom a world where EG does not like win their DPCs. I don't know how they're going to do internationally. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to do internationally. Maybe they're just good enough to like be NA champions. But and maybe that's giving so incredibly much disrespect to probably Undying first and foremost, but then I guess everybody else secondarily. But if you look at the NA pool, and I know it was kind of like it last year, but it feels even more like it this year. The answer is like, well, there's EG, and then there's a gap, and then there's other people.
Yeah, yeah. It actually looks like I am anticipating Undying, who actually stuck together as five, to be the second best team in NA. Mostly because I don't believe in Quincy Crew, but also because at least initially they are probably already ahead of Quincy Crew. Right? When you're starting a new team, there's going to be some fumbling, and then you reach a honeymoon phase where you do really well, and then you naturally slide back down, and things go bad again, and then who knows what happens in time for TI. But I'm anticipating at least the start of the season, Undying to be ahead of Quincy Crew. But who knows? It's 6 weeks long, so I imagine that ESL is going to have Undying and Quincy Crew face off against each other at the very end of the season. You want to save that match for, I think, the end of the season, like we did last year, where we custom made every week and saved what we would expect to be the best matches for the end of the season.
Can I soapbox for a second?
Yeah.
Permission to soapbox.
Yeah.
I saw Mr. or Mrs. I leak all the Dota stuff do an AMA the other day.
I honestly, real quickly, I thought that was really sad.
Sad because are you like psychoanalyzing the fact that you think that they need attention, so they're just like, doing that? Like why sad?
I mean, if you're gonna be a leaker, I think attention is a big part of that for most people, but not necessarily all of them. But the fact that you did an AMA afterwards, I think, really says that you really wanted the attention, and and then like that just kind of makes me sad because it's not even you. It's an anonymous account. You're not really getting the attention because no one knows it's you.
Now, the Liquid stuff did not get scooped by anybody.
Yes.
I feel pretty good about that. Part of it is that we did go to market pretty quick about it. Like, that's why, Zai tweeted immediately. And that was part of the marketing, right? Because, like, we didn't want someone to leak it and make it someone else's story. But there was this notion that was present in the thread that teams don't care about leaks or players don't care about leaks. I think it's funny. And while I can't speak to all players, and I'm sure some of them truly don't care about the news cycle, I can say, without talking to anybody in EG, with utter confidence, that they were fucking pissed about the JerAx news getting scooped.
That is really hot news. And like, it would have really blown people out of the water if there was no rumors of it. But but like that's going to happen. I feel like, the bigger esports becomes, sports leagues happen all the time. There are people who literally make that their job. So
yeah, and it does exist more so in other scenes, and at least the people leaking in other arenas like are your esports journalists or something like that, right? They're not just an insider on a burner account who's leaking news for the sake of, like, attention or drama or just for the lulz. Like, I feel pretty not awesome on EG's behalf because that's a really cool story that they get the chance to break, and I'm sure they want to do it properly. And the notion that, like, oh man, teams are waiting so long to release rosters. Like, if you want to do something cool about a new player, it takes a minute. It takes a minute of resources to, like, write an article, make a graphic, do anything that you want to do. It can't just happen in a day. So maybe I feel annoyed at other people being annoyed, or the community annoyance, and like, oh man, the roster moves took so long. Where was all the news? It's a good thing we got a leak, or otherwise, what were we gonna fucking?
I'm laughing so much is because I complained about that last week. I said, why is it taking so long, Joey? But yes, we now have all the rosters. I want to speed things up here. South America, Beast Coast, sticking its thing. The hot contender to Beast Coast, I assume, is going to be Thunder Predator, just because they recently did well at the BTS Americas tournament. So they actually beat Four Zoomers twice, once in a best of three, another time in a best of five in the grand finals, and they worked them pretty badly. So Thunder Predator looks to be like the second best team in SA, so expecting them to be the other team that goes to the major. Who knows
Question.
how Beast Coast does online? Yeah.
Do you know how it works? Because some of these teams, like in South America, just have completely 5-man new rosters, but are keeping like the same brand identifier. Is that like that's? I thought the players own the spots.
Well, I guess that depends on who does hold the slot. Right? One person can hold the slot. And I assume that if you're a tournament organizer, or excuse me, a team owner, you negotiate to own the slot, and pay the players a bunch of extra money to own the slot. That way you have some stability in the matter. So I don't exactly know. I'm not sure.
I'm
I'm
gonna
not
do
sure
some.
what's
I'm,
going
I'm
on
gonna
with all that.
investigate that stuff because there are a handful of teams in a bunch of different divisions that just basically, Thunder Predator, all new people. No Ping, all new people. SG, TNC. Yeah, at least.
Yeah. Omega Esports. We'll get to that in a second. Southeast Asia T1 is still they're sticking the same. They're presumably going to be the best team coming out of there. Fnatic picked up Armel, which I think makes them a lot more exciting. Raven, Armel, Jabs, DJ. I feel like that four is really strong, and I hope that they manage to actually do well this year, as opposed to last year. Southeast Asia is just chock full of, I think, really competitive tier 2 teams. So that
yeah.
region is still going to be hype, excluding Omega Esports, who got some of their players banned for match fixing.
How and I also saw that they were match fixing for $1,000.
Oh, were they really? Oh no.
Yeah.
322 all the way back in like 2013, and now in 2021 it's up to $1,000. That's what we're match fixing for.
Cap, people are complaining all over the place about inflation, but I mean, clearly it's not that bad. We've only gone from $300 to $1,000 to throw your life away in Dota. So like, is that given how much time's passed? Is that really that much?
Yeah, that was a pretty wild one, especially since Omega was bringing back Forev. So now I don't know what's going on with that team, because there is 3 people who got cleared, I believe, but 2 of the people that are on Omega Esports, and then some former players as well, got banned. So in this case, I don't know if that 3-man is going to somehow hold on to the roster and like pick up 2 other people to form a team. I'm not actually sure what's going to go on there, but I was interested to see Forev come back.
And what does that do to Omega's brand, right? Like, are they able to, like,
I think Omega is banned as well from Dota, like they did with
Newbie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's a thing. I'm excited also, like you were saying, for Div 2, mostly because I think that I want to see Talon play and make their way up to Div 1. I like KP. I think he's a good Dota player.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot. I have a soft spot for all the teams that he's on. CIS has similar, like, full, complete new rosters, both with Hellraisers and Empire.
Yeah, I think Team Spirit, TI winners coming into that, may not actually be the favorite just because they're TI winners. Every TI winner doesn't all of a sudden show up to the next tournament and kick ass. Usually it's like, I'm taking a vacation and I'm not touching Dota. So Team Spirit may not actually be the best team there. We'll see. I mean, those guys are young and they really love Dota and they're still playing a bunch of Dota. So maybe they will. Maybe they will keep kicking ass. But the big ones there coming out of Eastern Europe are Virtus Pro obviously had a shift where that 5-man apparently had some real problems. They said they were not getting along. So now Pure and Yamich are going to be playing on VP, replacing Nightfall and Save, who's no longer there. So that's the big interesting switch up. Other than that, I feel like most of them is Eastern Europe rosters just passing players around, but with the caveat of I do feel like more younger players are being picked up and passed around. I feel like
Hold on,
players
don't do my
that
boy
whoever,
Solo dirty. Have you? Hold on. You know what I would love to see? I want Solo to send us a picture of his closet because I want to see all the jerseys.
Yeah. Solo is back into upper division after, which is so wild that he is still valued that highly that he literally led a team that went from upper division to lower division to out of the DPC. Boom, boom. And now he's back in upper division playing for Na'Vi, which is V2 No One, the new additions. General is back. Aloha Dance going to be playing 4, and then Solo 5. So that roster definitely has some promise if you still believe in Solo.
If there's
as
any
a player.
if there's any Dota historians, I want to know if anybody has joined and left the same team more than General and Navi.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm sure he's eclipsed RTZ at this point in time with Secret and EG. So it's been a whirlwind for him, but hopefully let bygones be bygones, and he can get back to his old teammates and play Dota again. I don't know. That whole situation is fucking weird, and I feel like there is definitely going to be some grudges still left over. But other than that, so Navi is the old guard where they're still picking up old players that have been around forever, but. Everybody else, I see new names, or I see like names I've even never heard of, or names that I saw in lower division that are now being picked up, being taken from one of these promising lower division teams, and like, okay, you've got talent, just come join the big dogs. So that does make me hopeful for Eastern Europe. Because that obviously has been a problem where the old boys just kind of get shuffled around the same spots and we just play musical chairs with the same people forever. I think that problem has been there for a while. I think Team Spirit winning TI kind of makes that very obvious. Of like, hey guys, you should probably try some new people. And so I hope anyway that is why some of these people are being picked up.
China. Can you explain to me how RNG is in upper division?
No. How are they in upper division? Okay. I actually don't know this. I haven't paid attention.
So, my understanding, and I was asking you because I'm hoping you had confirmation, because I think I have the right story, but this is not good journalism right here, so pardon me. Elephant gave up their spot. They are no longer competing or playing, and I don't know the story behind that. I don't know if it's because Burning was gambling all of Elephant's money away, or like what the situation is. But RNG basically got Elephant's spot, and I don't know if like it was sold to RNG or gifted to RNG, or if someone decided in the Chinese system that RNG is the person who decided to move up next. I don't know what it is, but RNG is taking what was Elephant's own spot, and then someone else took RNG's spot from Division 2 and backfilled it.
Okay. No. I think that is right, because RNG got 7th, which I believe there was another team. It's probably Southeast Asia, Omega. Somebody who got 7th in Southeast Asia keeps their spot. So instead of Omega being there, I believe one of the teams got relegated last season. So yeah. This is just a consistent rule set, it seems like.
Yeah, it was Boom for SEA.
Yeah. Okay.
I like RNG's team on paper. I'm consistently more excited for Chinese Dota, I think, year over year. It's really growing on me. I like that LGD is staying together.
Yeah. LGD staying together. Aster has picked up Ori, which I felt like Ori impressed me over the last few years of his just constant improvement. So he may not be your like star player, your Ame maybe kind of status, but I do think that he is still very solid. Fade
But
is
that
back,
hurts
back on
Vici.
IG.
Like I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
what Vici looks like because Ori was to me like really slaying over there.
Yeah, yeah. Vici Gaming had pretty big roster change where they've got some players that I actually don't know. I don't know who YDS is, for example. So, uh, yeah, I guess if I end up covering any China, which don't think I am, but eventually I will with the major and stuff. I'll have to look into those players. A lot of newer players that I'm seeing on this upper division, both because the some of the players got promoted from the lower division, which I believe Phoenix was one of them, and LBZS is probably the other team.
Yeah, Phoenix was promoted and then has a whole new roster now for Division One. So nobody
Yeah,
who earned
weird,
that
weird
spot,
stuff.
everybody who earned that spot did not get to stay on the team, which is, I mean, I think that happened last year where Phoenix like went up and then went back down. So,
Yeah.
maybe it's justifiable. Um, I do like that every region does have a team that is completely sticking together. And the region that has the most teams that are completely sticking together is Western Europe because Nigma and Tundra are just the same roster, which makes me excited
Yep.
for Tundra because I still don't know if they've really peaked out. And I think it has a lot of people confused about if Nigma is going to come with some vengeance or if they're just going to continue to be like a third, fourth place team.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I know of Kuro, there's no way that if they do bad this first season, that they're going to keep the same roster. That is somebody who is, you could feel how motivated. He is a very intense individual. So I cannot imagine that they are happy with what happened last year. They were close to being able to get to TI. A lot of unfortunate situations. For example, Mind Control not going to the first major, or them not quite getting enough points to be able to get to TI. So there's just a lot of problems that propped up for them. But I have to imagine if they don't receive immediate success, then something is going to change for that roster. They can't be together. Especially, I think ILTW is like the obvious out, right? He's the only non-TI winner, hasn't had the same kind of success as everybody else on the team. So I have to imagine that if anybody pops up that is worth replacing ILTW with, and they are not doing well, they will immediately do it. So not expecting that roster to stick together as five. Tundra, I do, though, because that's obviously a team that is younger than Nigma. They haven't been around together as five as long, and they obviously received a lot of success towards the end of the season last year. So it definitely feels like they're on a trajectory upward. So if they continue that trajectory, finally get to a major, good things can really happen.
Uh, are the two teams that came up from lower division, which are Viking and Level Up, which are now Team Tickles and Cool Guys, the obvious seventh, eighth again here?
Uh-huh. Yes, yes. I think they are, but because of roster changes, we can't know for sure. I think OG is the other obvious team. Like, I think there's a separation where you've got Team Secret and then TBD. One of these teams between Nigma, Liquid, Alliance, and Tundra is probably going to knock it out of the water, and they're going to be near the top. They're going to be like super dominant. I'm expecting Secret just because new roster, Secret's consistently dominant. And then I think OG, Viking GG, or Team Tickles, Cool Guys. I think those are the obvious bottom three. Again, like you never know until teams actually play it out. 6 weeks is a long season. We saw from Alliance last year, like teams can do really well when they only have to play like one game a week online. That is like different than what has been the past of Dota 2 for a long time. So there is opportunities, and I think things. I believe the last year that things were going to get shaken up quite a bit. It turns out Alliance was the one doing the shaking up when it came to the DPC, and they actually got first. I'm expecting things this year to be a little bit more straightforward. I don't super believe that the bottom three teams are really going to shake things up and be top three and going to the major right away. And I also don't believe that the established teams of Nigma, Secret, Tundra, Liquid, Alliance are really going to lose that much ground. I don't think any of them are going to get relegated, at least not in the first season. But we'll see.
I think if I had to call the most consistent league, I think that Liquid, Nigma, and Secret are going to every major.
That I'm not. I feel like Tundra. I think Tundra is going to end up getting a slot to the major for Western Europe. I feel
there's four in
relatively
Western Europe.
strongly about them.
There's four in Western
yeah.
Europe, so maybe they also are that fourth person. And I know that I have a history of like bashing on Alliance, but like I want to see how they do with the roster. I'm really not certain about it. I think OG like has the most like variance. Obviously, we know nothing about them. Could be good, could be icky, but I mean I'm gonna be hard pressed to bet against who we think is gonna do well in Western Europe. And I know so you did a whole podcast with Blitz, which people should go listen to, talking about the Liquid offseason, the roster, which was super interesting. I listened to it while eating barbecue, and everyone should go check that out. So I don't need to reiterate anything that Will was saying, but I'm excited. I'm excited for the year's worth of prospects for Team Liquid.
Yeah, you guys definitely one of the winners of the roster switcheroo. If I had to like point out like if I had to call winners and losers, I'd say OG. I mean, it's not even fair to call OG losers because that's just an entirely different roster. So Alliance is right there on the line. I really believe in Leslau. I think Aramis is pretty good, but I'm not like as convinced about him. As like for me, it's Leslau and Nico Baby that make that team really good for Alliance. Supreme, okay, Aramis, okay, Hanskin, he's been captains before and he's got I think better players than he's ever had as a captain. So that roster, I'm not sure winner or loser. But like for example, Quincy Crew I think is worse than last year. BG Gaming I think is worse than last year. Who else is definitely
I can make the argument that I think Team Secret might be worse than last year.
Yeah, that one's really hard to say. I remember we talked about this last week where I thought like maybe Secret's actually going to be one of the losers. Sumail cements it for me that they can't be a loser. I think any team that has Sumail, I think that guy is just like so talented and so motivated. And apparently, from everything that I've talked to people about, is that he's like a really good teammate as well. So I'm a little bit more skeptical about Ice 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 because I think he's a fantastic offlaner, but I think he's a little bit like a name you mentioned earlier, KP, where he is a little bit more meta dependent, let's say. Where there are times where I feel like Ice 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 is top 3 offlaner in the world, and there are other times where I think he's like 9th, 10th. He's always going to be good, but I'm not convinced that he is consistently the best. So, meanwhile, like Sumail, I feel like is consistently held as like one of the best players, one of the best mids.
Then who do you think won? Who were real winners that were walking away from this season? I think that
Liquid.
I mean, I can't say that one.
RNG.
But thank you.
RNG picked up maybe Chalice and Xnova. All 3 of those players I really believe in. Yeah. I think that is a roster that definitely won. Maybe Aster to a certain extent got boosted up a little bit. I'm not Eastern Europe is. I'm not sure if there are any winners there.
Spirit won by staying together.
Yeah. For Eastern Europe, on paper, I don't know if there are any winners. There obviously will be winners once we see them in action, but I am not. Many of these players I'm very familiar with from like Melee's, Petrishar, Happy Giara. Like I casted them many times. But none of them have stood out to me so much though that I'm like, oh, that's the team that I think is going to be super good. I think all of those players have like their ups and downs. Like Melee's is super good, but I feel like he's got maybe a more limited hero pool. Young G, like PugChamp changed up their roster and picked up Young G and Malik, which I think Young G is good. But I just, PugChamp was they were like a fun little Cinderella story from lower division, like a bunch of no names crawling up. So messing with that mojo feels a little weird. Fnatic, winner. I think Fnatic is a winner for picking up Armel. Because I think that guy's really sick. Who else? I don't want to say full new rosters. That's kind of weird, but like Thunder Predator, looks like their new roster is going to be pretty sick. Because Because is on that lineup, and I think that guy's really good.
You know more about NA Dota than I do. Do you think 4Zoomers had a good offseason? Or does Moo and Z-Freak not have as high of stock as they used to?
I think for Zoomers, I'm not going to say they're outright winners, but I feel like they needed a change. They needed a necessary change. They couldn't keep on going with the old 4Zoomers. So I think that Gunnar and Husky were the core of the team. From the way I look at it, I think Gunnar's incredibly talented, and I think you hold on to him, and Husky was the captain, so I just kind of assumed that he is essential to have. Picking up Moo, Costabile, Z-Freak, all individuals that have shown that they are very talented. Maybe they're not necessarily in the prime of their career right now, but that's not to say in 6 months that we won't say that they're in the prime of their career. There's no reason. Like, Z-Freak is still incredibly good. Moo is, bounced around from team to team and gone off lane and carry and all these sorts of things. But he's in a position to be able to succeed. There's a reason why he was at the grand finals of TI6. Yeah, TI6. And Costabile is super good. So
they're the team that I think is going to introduce the most chaos to North America. Like, they could potentially pick off games if they click from maybe anyone. They could also
there is a team of literal demons. I feel like that's pretty chaotic. I might even say chaotic evil.
Yeah, but how am I supposed to rate? How am I supposed to go with, who is Forsaken Oracle compared to AUI 2000? Like, I mean, how am I supposed to one-to-one compare people?
Arkosh is definitely a loser this year. No doubt, because they had AUI for at least the TI qualifiers, and he's no longer there. So big loss there. Though Monkey, I think, is pretty good. Surprisingly, when you put a diaper on a monkey and force him to play Dota 2 for 16 hours a day, he actually learns and adapts very quickly. Bananas are a powerful motivator, and he's really good. So that may offset things a little bit. D2 Hustlers picked up a bunch of players and only kept Devi Lama, which is, I think, a winner for them for sure. Esk has been around the scene for a while. He's good. Yamson's good. Sammy Boy going to offlane. I don't know. Maybe he just feels like he needs a change of some kind. But kind of a winner there. I think. Actually, I'm going to say 100%. I feel like that's a winner. No offense to some of the people who are on that team that are my friends, actually. 1437 and Pandago. No offense to them, but I do feel like this D2 Hustlers lineup has a higher ceiling. Let's put it that way. They have a higher ceiling.
Well, I think that really kind of hits all of it. I know that we're going to spend literally the next weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks also seeing how these things actually shake out, which I guess is why this is exciting and this is why people cover sports. But I am in full ready for DPC mode. I'm in full ready for DPC mode. Do you know, or could you talk about like what you're doing?
I know what I'm doing.
Gargles
at this
sound
point
like
in time.
sound like a
It
no.
hasn't- I mean, it just hasn't been announced, so I don't necessarily want to step on any toes. Not that I think.
Oh,
it
how
really
nice!
fucking
You're not
matters.
going to
Like,
leak
who cares?
stuff.
I'll leak that. I mean, people can probably guess what I'm doing if I tell them the general prospects. I am going to be doing. I wanted to change things up this year. Last year, like one of the big things that we talked about over time was that I felt like with the DPC, the segmented talent working on specific regions meant that like viewership became a lot more tribalistic, right? Where people like you're following your region and you love your region and your casters are casting your region, you love your casters and fuck those other casters.
DreamHack,
like
baby, let's go. Let's go DreamHack.
So I wanted to be able to work multiple regions if possible this year. And I also did not want to fly to Sweden. I didn't want to fly to Sweden right away. So I'm going to be working with a different tournament organizer for the first half of the season. And then for the second half of the season, I should be back to what I was doing before. So that is what I've got on my docket. I feel like maybe it's just coincidence, but I feel like a lot of people are actually going to be doing something like that. Not necessarily because that's what they wanted to do, but just because it feels like tournament organizer may want some variety, which works for me. I'm not sure if other people are happy about it, but I wanted variety, so yeah.
Is there any value in that variety for you as a brand? Because I hate that I said that, but like if you're in different people, you're just getting like different exposure, right? And also you're probably creatively at least doing things a little bit differently, so it's not like clocking in and out for. I mean, a DPC season's 6 weeks, and we're doing 3 of them, so there's like 18 weeks of very similar Dota all year.
Yeah, I think that is overexposure. I think is a pretty big problem for talent. If you are at the highest tier, like you're just getting hired for lots of things, you're constantly on camera, right? You're constantly talking to people. Just get tired of you. There's not as much excitement when you show up on screen because they've heard the same. You make the same jokes. You have the same tics that bother people. You spend too much time with anybody and they're gonna bother you no matter how much you love them. So I think overexposure is a bit of a problem. So yeah, I think that would definitely help. It's not the motivator per se. I personally wanted to be able to like do different regions because I think that would help alleviate the narrative right now, which is like these casters only care about this region because they're not casting my region, they only care about their region, sort of thing, which I think is both fair and unfair. I think there's a point to be made, though I think people make that point way too big. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. I only have the first season planned out. I don't know what I'm going to be doing for a second and third season. Still figuring that out.
Do you think that's normal or abnormal at this point?
Abnormal that I don't have the second and third season locked down.
Yeah, like I guess what I'm trying to tease out is do most of your cohorts know what they're doing for the full year?
I think most of them know. I think it's easier for a tournament organizer just to be able to lock people down for the full deal. But if you're not as established, maybe you're only getting picked up for a season and we'll see sort of thing. For example, like last year, PGL picked up Nomad as their host and then was replaced by Sumichu, right? Or no, that was
no. She went to the major.
Tsunami.
Yeah, Tsunami went over.
Replaced.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So I think like that's an example of like, okay, we'll see what happens, and then obviously they got somebody that they felt like was either fit the show better or they felt was better or something like that. So
I'm wondering who's gonna go do China, because I don't know if Nomad's coming back. I don't think BKOP got hired. There's a Reddit thread about that. Like I don't like. I don't know if Black's going to be casting. Like it's like I'm interested just to see who is getting work like from like a friend perspective, but also from a broadcast perspective, because I intend on watching a lot of China. It's a good time zone for waking up and going to bed.
Yeah, I think the BKOP thing showed up before TI. It's BKOP has become this center of like discontent with talent, because he is like the, I don't know, the harbinger or something. Like the people look at him as like a symbol of like everything they feel is wrong with the Dota scene, right? Because they think like, oh, nepotism and stuff like that. Like he doesn't get hired, he becomes like the person that they hang all of their hangups on. I guess.
I think it might even transcend Dota, because I think that there's a lot of people who correctly like really like the idea of just the meritocracy. If you do the most work the best, you should be rewarded for it. And from the outside looking in, you see BKOP doing all this casting, you like him, and then you go, well, I think based by merit he should be rewarded. And you can do 20 podcasts talking about the meritocracy in and outside of Dota, but I think that that's actually like I think that's the most core issue that people aren't really shining a light on. Like they talk about BKOP as a person, they talk about the casting, but they're not really talking about like, hey, I think he deserves it because of this like core philosophical belief.
Yeah, and I think it's a belief that a lot of people hold.
Yeah,
I myself,
I do to a degree.
Yeah, I think I people just generally like to see hard work rewarded, and because they want to believe that if they work hard, they'll also be able to succeed. And the counterbalance to that, the other side of that coin, rather, would be that they work hard and they don't get that success, and they become bitter about it. And then they lay it up on other people, and that may be true. It may be true that you got passed over for that promotion because of networking, but I think some people do it just because they need to find a reason. It can't be their fault, or they can't hold it up to like powerlessness, right? There needs to be an evil, a bad guy to their personal life story, right? I didn't get that promotion because, for whatever bad luck or bad reasons there were, I didn't get that promotion because that guy sucked that guy's dick, So
That's my industry, baby.
So I think it helps people feel better about those things, and I think that networking is so weird that like, you know what networking is? Networking is literally just getting along with your colleagues. For in Dota talent industry. And I personally have never had any problems with BKOP, but I will say that like the fact that he hasn't got hired for anything, I think people should ask him why he's not getting hired for anything instead of just making up reasons. You should probably just ask BKOP, like, hey man, why didn't you get picked up for like you did China last year? Why aren't you getting picked up for China this year? Like there may be a good reason for that. I personally don't know. I don't know for sure. I only heard like a rumor basically, but people should really just ask him those things. And instead of just like making up fantasy power play stories about like how the talent or Valve are like cutting him out or something like that, that it is possible that those things happen.
It's a much more fun story to tell also, because like you said, then there's a villain, then there's a story, there's a narrative, and you can get invested in it because you care about these people, and there's good and there's evil. But yeah, like I think that you're pretty on point, and like, what is his side of the story? Maybe there's something that no one is thinking about. That's a reason why something isn't happening.
Yeah, I will say that like hiring for these sort of things, talent don't really have any power in this. Not that I really think of. Like maybe really established talent can say like, hey, I don't want to work with this person. He gives me bad vibes, or she is super annoying or something like that. Maybe some talent have that like power or something to be able to do something like that. But I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing that outside of like very specific Me Too examples, for example. But like, I don't think I've ever heard of any talent do that. Most of the talent get along fairly well. In fact, I would say pretty well, especially given everything that I just saw from CSGO. Like, Dota is like, whoo, we're having a good time over here. I mean, like, for example, banding together and negotiating together in talent industries like I think that very rarely happens, and from what I understand in esports, doesn't happen hardly at all. But like Dota talent did that. And I feel like that says something about like our relationship with each other, that we trust each other and that we don't like aren't working to like undercut each other or screw each other out of a job. And I think that's a sign of like,
even to the point, like, my understanding is that you guys regularly like share rates and like have very candid conversations about like, you know, work with each other, which is abnormal from a talent agent. That is very abnormal.
Yeah, any caster ever wants to know my rates, I will tell them. And I have created a caster Discord for the online casters, and I've shared my rate, and I've shared like, hey, this is like, because the DPC was coming up, and I wanted people to know like, hey, you should ask for like this. You have a day rate. You don't get paid by series. You have a day rate that you get paid for. You get paid for travel days. You get paid for rehearsal days. Like, make sure that you are asking for these things, and don't let yourself get screwed out just because you're ignorant of like what the standard is, both what you get paid for and how much people get paid for it for. So.
You know, people always talk about post like esport career jobs, if that ever needs to happen. I'm just saying, your resume for union leader wouldn't look horrible.
Yes. Player formerly Dota caster formerly known as the capitalist becomes a union leader. Those things are non-exclusive. But I do think I do like getting people to work together. That is one of my pleasures in life. So, so I think this whole, like, once again, a bunch of people are making out to be like, oh man, these shitty networking, nepotistic casters, when the reality is, here's what happens. DPC, people bid to be able to get a league. Tournament organizers that win that bid then approach talent and offer like, hey, here's dates. What would your rates be for it? There's some negotiating, maybe back and forth. And that's pretty much it. Like, I don't think Valve...
like mandates or...
I don't think...
I'm like watching the
I can't
cogs
say
in your
this.
head term.
Because here's the thing: is like, okay. Let me actually talk about the Cap and Blitz podcast real quick. Blitz and I had like a little session back and forth after the podcast. There were a bunch of people like talking to me in like Reddit comments and stuff, like, oh, like, you know, like they were accusing Blitz of basically lying about like how, like, oh, you're saying Liquid didn't pay a bunch of money to Team Secret in order to get these players or something like that. It's like. He said it on a podcast where Secret could literally listen to it and call him out. Like, you have no other information but what Blitz is giving you. Like, how are you just saying he's a liar when actual people with knowledge could listen to it and call him out immediately? Like, why would he lie on that podcast? If he doesn't want to talk about something, he actively says, you know, I don't think I could talk about that. And so I do the same with this podcast. Like, I'm pretty real with you guys, but there are some things that I gotta be careful what I talk about. And I'm trying to get around this, that Valve, I don't think Valve dictates to all the tournament organizers, hey, don't hire this talent or anything like that. Yeah. So in general, it's just these tournament organizers, whoever's in charge of talent is figuring it out themselves. And who they personally like, who they think fits their style, who they think will charge the least, you know, like all of these factors come into play. So the fact that, like, if he doesn't get any jobs, that seems really weird to me. Mostly because, like, there are 6 different tournament organizers, or rather, there are basically 4 different tournament organizers, I think, for these leagues at this point. So it's kind of weird that none of them hired them. That's kind of weird. I don't see how that happens without like burning bridges with multiple people.
There's a reason for investigation to happen because it looks abnormal on the surface, just why people are like, what's going on? But don't know the full story. Also,
Yeah,
You know
so
how
just
frustrating it
ask
is?
him. Ask him instead of just making up weird ass fucking stories about the talent cabal or like somebody at Valve, Gabe specifically hates BKOP and has told everybody in the industry that he is not to be hired under any circumstances.
I can only imagine how frustrating it is for Will to be explicitly like, okay, everybody, I'm being a little vulnerable here. I want to say I'm telling you the truth. Like, I'm not lying. Liquid didn't have the highest offer for Matu. And
Fire.
you fucking piece of shit of you deceptive motherfucker. What are you doing? You, of course, you paid the most money. Like, that is just on a human psychology level so mentally taxing to be like, hey, everybody, I'm putting myself out there. Like, I just, here's some information. You might find it interesting. Fuck you. Like, oh, man, I feel so... Why does Will even do that? Why?
Think about the mental space that person who's saying that is in. They just view everything that is put forward to them as deception and lies.
We can probably
like if you're gonna take like a personal podcast that doesn't get any like major engagement whatsoever and just say like, oh, it's all marketing. Like Jesus Christ. Nothing in the world is real. We're just in the marketing matrix right now. Everything that we put out there is just
yeah. All we're like this podcast. I didn't want to tell people this because we've almost made it to 100 episodes. This whole podcast is just like a big cabal for you to promote me enough to be able to take BKOP's spot as a caster, and it's almost working. We're in stage like 3, so like
we're so close.
we got so close to it, and people finally figured out that where everything's a lie. This all has a secondary purpose. Like, maybe just take a step back.
It's pretty good because if you really set that straight face and really tried to sell it, there would be people 100% who believe it. Like, Joey's trying to leave his job at Team Liquid to become an Dota 2 analyst.
I cannot think of a thing I would like to do less.
Why?
I mean, okay.
I think being Dota talent is great. It's a lot of fun.
I can't think of a lot of things I'd rather do less. Let's not be hyperbolic about that. If I was ever working like in a Dota space on a broadcast that a lot of people were watching, it could only be in like an interview or a host thing. I have literally no business talking about the game at a deeper level than most people. So like and also I truly think the last thing that Dota needs is like another straight white American man talking about the game. So like
as a straight white American man, I'll tell you to go fuck yourself. How about that, Joey?
That being said, if there's a big Team Liquid project at TI next year that I'm involved with, do not clip this out because it's very separate.
All right. I think we've got one more thing.
One more thing.
We absolutely have to talk about. Because I actually did like research for this thing. I actually reached out and talked to people like a journalist would do. Talk about this bit it was mostly because I was personally curious. The Bumblebees issue. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the Bumblebees. Bumblebees was a team formerly known as like Sad Boys, I think, last year. They were in the upper division North America last season. So the second season of last year. And they got relegated down. So they got 7th, I think, in the upper division, and they would be playing in the lower division for this season. Now, that team, that roster is full of players who are now on different North American teams that are already in upper division. For example, Moo is now on 4 Zoomers. The only players that are not in the upper division or are already on a team, I think they're all in upper division. The only 2 players that were not there anymore would be PPD, which doesn't seem like he plans on playing at all, and Fear, who also sort of retired or is taking a break. I'm not sure which. But those are the only 2 players. So this slot came into the hands basically of a guy called Hotaros, who was the manager, I believe, of the Bumblebees at that time. None of the players wanted the slot, so he has the slot. And this is
Can we not call
part
it the
of
slot? It feels so weird.
he has
We
what do you
gotta
want
get
to
the
call it?
slot. I need the slot. So it's like you're some shady club.
What do you want to call it instead?
I should have had a better pitch prepared because now I'm
It's
just
true.
railroading your
You should
story.
have had a
Like,
better one because now I can't. Like, what else am I going to call it? The spot? It's basically the same word.
yeah, let's go spot.
Anyway, okay. He owns the spot in the lower division of North America, and none of the players wanted it, so he's got it. And so I asked him about it, and he told me that he actually tried to see if he could build a team or give it to somebody who is forming like a good squad. But everybody who contacted him was apparently from NA. Wasn't from NA or SA. The people who contacted him for. So that's what he says. So he says that he decided to take advantage of the situation. Just he got a chance to play in the lower division, so he's going to take that chance. And he formed a team, which was him and I think four female Dota players. I'm not 100% on that just yet. So that was the team. Obviously, they got ripped to shreds on Reddit, and people were claiming this was a terrible, terrible, disrespectful thing to do to the DPC, which I kind of disagree with. But yeah, they got ripped to shreds by Reddit. And now the recent news is that Hotaro's, because of some Me Too allegations against him in 2017, and people him a bunch of shit for that. He has now stepped down from the team, and presumably the team is going to just completely disband because I don't even know if they can play anymore because they can't add players. So if you drop out, I don't know how exactly. I think Valve would probably fix that situation if it was like medical or something like that. Or like some four-man got like just abandoned by their fifth, like Valve might be able to like give you some leeway there. But I can't imagine there's any incentive for Valve to fix this team because obviously it's a very controversial subject.
What a roller coaster. So like I was only vaguely looking at this from the sidelines over the week because all this happened like really quickly. And all of the drama was like on a roller coaster of like, oh no, we're mad about women. Oh no, we're mad about the selling the spot. Oh no, this person is not a good person. All of which are like nuanced and justifiable talking points for like different, reasons. And it's hard because like I appreciate the recap because like I'm like, what actually happened? And why are people mad for so many different reasons? If you look on Wikipedia, which probably not the finite final source, but it says that Bumblebees is disqualified and another slot was added for the closed qualifier because I think that the team is no longer playing with the spot owner who stepped away, and there was like roster lock timing issues, right? So everything is just kind of resolved itself, and I think that it'll just be like a weird footnote as opposed to what probably would have been an entire season of people targeting and harassing and complaining about either injustice or I guess injustice. So probably
or complaining about women, you can say that. Like I think a lot of people see this is the thing about the internet is that people take the opportunity when they see something they don't like. The internet, especially Reddit, has become we talk about the circle jerk. It basically becomes a race to be the most hateful about a thing that people hate. Right, the more hateful you are, the higher upvoted your comment is going to be, because people are naturally vindictive and what is it, Schadenfreude? Like those you buy into those emotions and stuff. So it becomes very quickly that people like want to be able to be the most accusatory, the most like, I'm up on my moral high ground and fuck this guy, look how terrible they are. Yep. So I think that sort of happened in this situation. But again, I think this, like, my personal stance is on this was not only, I don't know, disrespectful, I guess, I just think it was plain stupid. I'm not sure what good point you could possibly be making out of this. What I did talk to Papayas as well. Papayas was the probably the highest profile person on. She's a streamer, I believe, for Alliance, and she's pretty high MMR, I believe. Um, so yeah, and I asked her about it, and so I was just asking her kind of like what the point of this was exactly, because I assume it's because sole ownership is they're making a stand against sole ownership, which is what she said. My slot ownership rule is kind of busted, which I know a lot of people agree with. I actually maybe disagree with. I think it's a problem in Dota because we don't have very many organizations. That is like the biggest problem, right? Because if you have an organization and like there are team owners involved and they buy a slot that works, that can screw out players, of course, but it also works to the player's advantage where you're actually able to, when you qualify for a slot and you get into upper division and you as a team own that slot, when you sell out to a team owner, like you are not only getting like, hey, you know, sponsor us, like buy us out, give us a salary and that sort of thing. We'll play under your brand. You're also able to sell the slot that you have to that team owner as like an additional negotiation advantage when it comes to salary, or even just flat out like, just a flat sum that you get. So I think there are advantages to that. I think you do want to incentivize team owners to be involved in the DPC, and that is the best way I think probably to do it is to actually allow them to hold a slot that, I bought an upper division slot and that also means that they want to hold that slot, right? Because you can get relegated, which means that you pay to be able to get the players that will help you keep that slot or get you into the majors, get you into TI. In an ideal world, that's what would happen. Unfortunately, the Dota ecosystem is mostly made up of player-owned teams. So that becomes much more of a shit show when it's just 5 guys and one of them holds the slot, or maybe a manager if they're trying to be a little bit more professional about it. But most likely it's the captain and he owns the slot and he is just able to kick and add people whenever they want. There is problems for sure, no doubt.
Speaking of professional involvement, more traditional team involvement, and also the NADPC, do you think that during this DPC cycle, one of these unsponsored teams will join Evil Geniuses in North America and grab some type of more established team? Or are we going to go an entire another year in NA with Quincy Crew, Undying, Four Zoomers, Black and Yellow?
Yeah. Maybe because we're getting around COVID at this point in time, where we're actually going to be able to have events, maybe with audiences, since that's what happened in the CS:GO major. So I think that makes investing into esports a little bit more enticing. Combined with the consistency factor. Okay, we did this last season or last year. Now we're doing this year as well. Like, okay, if this is a consistent product that is showing up, then I feel people are team owners are more likely to buy into it, right? Because it's like, what if they bought into this last year? Then Valve just decided, we're actually not going to do DPC thing. We're just not going to do it. Then like they invested into a slot that, and a team that if they didn't get an immediate return that year, then like their slot literally just goes away into the ether. So I think it is more likely, but I'm still pretty pessimistic.
Heard it here first. FlyQuest Z Freak coming at you this DPC season.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe if Quincy Crew succeeds like they did last year, I feel like maybe they're more likely to accept a bid that would be under their expected, under their market, and just be like, whatever, we got to get a salary. But I don't know how many offers. I actually never talked to Jack about that. I don't know how many offers they ever had. Whether they were legit offers or not. So, yeah, I think it's kind of unlikely just because it's hard to see how Dota esports from a team owner side is all of a sudden going to be revitalized. It's still a very top heavy esport. So if you're not investing in the absolute best players, I'm not sure what the advantage of is investing into like the fourth best team in NA.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there's anything there. Like shit, if CS:GO can't actually keep their team owners, you know, if they can't keep their organizations, then I'm not sure how Dota is going to be able to do that. You know, so
Well, shit.
not looking great.
I suspect a lot of people may or may not be listening to this in the Americas on or around Thanksgiving. So happy that day to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we do the podcast next, is the season gonna be? It's gonna be live. There's gonna be games played. You're gonna be presumably working somewhere. So we're.
Oh yeah.
We will have stuff to talk about. Games, results. Hopefully less drama. Maybe more drama. Coming at you next week.
Ooh. Yes, I think so. I've gotten a schedule for the first bit of the season that I'm working. So I actually don't know exactly what date I'll be first working, but yeah, we should be actually going live here pretty soon, which is kind of weird because I feel like everything has happened very quickly. Even like teams, whether or not they were actually locked in or not weeks before they finally did, like teams are all of a sudden, okay, now we know the teams. Talent, I know, haven't really been, even now I'm not sure if all the talent have been locked in, and I feel like people have to, if they're going to fly somewhere, I feel like they have to fly like really damn soon. So
especially if you're going international, like across an ocean. Like that's not just like a thing that you do for tomorrow. If you're going to Sweden, you're probably planning on it a little bit, right? You know?
Yeah, so I don't know. Things seem a little bit disorganized right now. Not sure if that's just TI date change and like things. I don't know, but it's things are a bit messy right now. But the season should be kicking off soon.
Cool. Well then, shit. Maybe I shouldn't ever host anything because I can't even out. I can't even do an out.
I think you just cut it at shit.
Well, maybe, or I leave this in and show like the process.
Yes, the process is we say things and we keep talking.
That's the other show.
Eventually, it's cut out.
Fuck.